You know, I'm really excited about our session today because it's all about shite. It's all about making shite and how to break through creative blocks.
Right.
All right, my friend. So, how's it going? What's swirling within that being of yours?
Well, it's just like you're bringing up is this idea of how do we break through what we feel is a stalemate, or we feel like we're stuck in something. How do we break through?
It's
a good topic, because I think a lot of us at one point or another deals with, or we feel that creative energy, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, where did it go?
Yeah.
What happened? You know, it's like I don't feel it like I used to. So what do I do?
Exactly.
What are the tools?
Right. And I'm thinking, well, was it all an illusion? Am I just shite? I just got lucky. I mean, all of this stuff comes up. The self-judgment, the lack of trust. I mean, talk about all of my stuff coming up. It's just like guaranteed. So it must be good. We must be on the right track, right?
Well, that's how I see it, is that you have a burst of creativity. So all this light floods from your soul into your personality, and it begins to shine through you. So you got that creativity, that passion that's flowing through you. You're really engaged. And then all of a sudden it feels like the tide goes out and you're like, oh, what do you do? But it's how you define it at that moment. So for me, it's just realizing that when all that light came in, it illuminated all the parts of the personality that are now ready for transformation. So that appearance of the light going out, what it is the opportunity to clear through some of these things that come up. And this is what I think most people label as a creative block. It's just, you just feel like it's time to churn through some things. It's time to roll the sleeves up and work through some negative beliefs, self-judgments, self-criticisms. And that's part of the process. And when you label it as part of the process, you realize that you're not stuck. You're well on your way.
You're in.
The medicine is working. But this part of the cycle is about churning through, breaking through, so that you can have even more light coming through you the next time.
Yes.
That happens.
Now, sometimes I get into the space of, you know what? I don't want to fucking feel what I'm feeling. This is when I get really tempted to, okay, my addictions are coming up. Where's my wine? Right. You know, where's my self-medication? Where's my edible? Where's, all of these things?
How about we just watch Netflix all night?
Hey, let's watch Netflix. It's okay. Let's watch another Bashar. Let's watch another spiritual video. Yeah.
And it all depends on where that's coming from. There's a time when it feels like you're running from something. And there's a time it feels like, at least for myself, there's a time when I really tune in, and there's let's say there's a show on Netflix and I watch it and I get totally inspired.
Yes.
Which is different than, oh, I just want to check out.
Right.
I don't want to feel this stuff. I don't want to feel, So there's a different quality in how we approach that.
Yes. And I've noticed it really is, I don't want to feel what I'm feeling right now. And when I become aware of my resistance to feeling what I'm feeling, then it's like, okay, I'm already dipping my toe, maybe my whole foot, maybe my leg into addiction or my coping patterns or whatever it is, and it's, I roll. I roll.
Well, and that's just how it works is the light reveals our darkness. That's just what we're making peace with as creative types. And especially in this age of transformation, it's all this light flooding in during those creative bursts is going to light up all those areas that we don't really want to look at.
Yeah. What's your favorite way of responding, or sort of making, consciously deciding? What's your favorite conscious choice for engaging with this type of situation, this type of energy that comes in, of the stuckness, of the quote creative block, of the tide went out? What's your favorite conscious choice?
Well, the conscious choice, and let me just preface this by saying it's not always the conscious choice, because sometimes I go into denying and like, why do I have to deal with this? I thought I dealt with this before.
Oh, my favorite.
Here's a good one. Like, oh, I should be further along by now.
Oh, yeah. I should know better.
Yes.
I know better.
Right. So when I'm on my on my game, let's say, when I make the conscious choice, it's about like, okay, stuff's coming up. I know what this is. I know what's happening. I actually just get my journal and just start writing. And it's that same question we've talked about before. What would I have to believe is true about myself in this situation to feel this way, act this way, and think this way? So it's about really looking at and unpacking that as what's coming up. And paradoxically, the more I avoid it, the longer I go through that process. The more I just jump in and roll my sleeves up and just really dig in to the feelings and unpack them and really sit with the beliefs that I carry. That's when the breakthroughs happen.
The sitting with the belief.
Yes.
The sitting with the belief. There, it feels like I'm freaking sitting on, let's say, I don't know, bed of nails. I mean, something that's incredibly uncomfortable. It's just incredibly uncomfortable. And I am just running around with the most intense desire to flush it out, to erase it, to throw it out, just to break it. I mean, all kinds of...
Distract myself, all that, yes.
Yeah, I really find that I get a very violent reaction towards it. Like, that's when I feel my violence coming up to want to deal with it. It seems like such a strange thing to say, but I feel that. Like, it feels volcanic almost.
Like recoiling, right? Like
recoiling, but I want to shatter it, smash it, just break it.
Well, that could be just the way you deal with it. That you want to break through, and that's how it's coming out. You're longing for the breakthrough. And that's where we have these practices, like in the medical qigong. We talk about the liver bag. You actually literally you have your 2 sticks and you strike the bag, because that's releasing that energy of breaking through, rather than bottling it up inside and letting it just create all kinds of havoc to your body, to your mind, to your emotions.
Yes.
So creating that movement is healthy, but the point is, do you do it in a healthy way or in a destructive way? There's always that. And we've all made choices that are positive and not so positive. If we yell at our partner, like, that's definitely like, it'll feel like maybe for a split second good, but then you have to deal with the fallout. But if you just take out the liver bag and just, you strike that, or you do some gardening, or you take it out in another way, in a constructive way, you transmute the energy, then that can be a good way to break through it.
So is the last time that you transmuted energy like this, was that done through the liver bag? Did you engage in
I have done that at one point in my life, but it's been a while since I've just wailed on the bag. It's still something I teach in my class, of course, because it has a value to it, because I was a person that really was very much afraid of anger, afraid of expressing that. It was a kind of a hot emotion where as a child I experienced it, creating a lot of pain and misery and suffering. And so I decided in my child mind, as anger is evil. That was one of the beliefs. So I would do everything to avoid it. And then that stifles not only anger itself, but just that creative thrust of energy that runs through us. So you can't just delete a very certain portion of existence without affecting all of your existence. So when you're starting to plug things and avoid things, you don't just avoid the thing you're avoiding, you start avoiding creative life force flowing through you. You're freezing, you're blocking, you're tamping, you're turning down the volume. So there's a lot you lose by not expressing it. So whatever that process is, it was the liver bag at one point. Now it's more the journaling, like I said, just being able to sit with that feeling. And sometimes it's just taking the action also, kind of like we're doing today.
Exactly, taking the action.
Yeah, we're not kind of sure where we're going, and yet at the same time it's taking the action and saying, let's see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I liked that we gave ourselves permission
to
just
let it rip. Yeah.
Let it rip, make shite.
Right.
Yeah, I found that very liberating.
Yes, there's something about getting caught up in, I want to produce something really great, so now there's all this pressure, the pressure's on. So sometimes as a creative, you want to give yourself permission to just, let's take some actions and see what happens.
And see what happens.
Roll your sleeves up and, maybe it'll come out one way, maybe it'll come out another way. But that expectation can become a pressure itself. So that's another way to break through.
Talk about killing creativity. I think it really does.
Yeah.
It's, oh my gosh, it feels too heavy. And, it's like, oh my goodness, now there's this energy of beholding to something.
And the insistence that it needs to come out in a certain way.
Yeah.
Not
my favorite.
No. Part of the creative process is being able to, quote unquote, fail. Because you take the steps and you just, sometimes you're a little wobbly. Sometimes it's kind of like watching a child learn to walk. It's not perfect the first time, whatever perfect is. It's, stumble, it's fall. It's like you try, but there's that creative desire to walk, and that's what it is. It's about just engaging, taking the actions,
going with the desire.
Zero insistence on the outcome, as our friend Bashar says.
Oh, my dear Bashar. Absolutely. Again, just in dealing with this, again, I'm reminded of, sort of the wanting to bypass. And I guess that's, another way of expressing it too is
the spiritual bypass.
The spiritual bypass. I mean, there's a name for this phenomenon,
yes.
right? This desire to just, all right. Just rush on through, yes. Push it through so that we can
I
be
should
breakthrough.
look like this, therefore I will act like this.
Yeah, all of those things. But I really resonated with the sitting with it.
Yes.
Allowing that disappointment to wash through, allow the fear, allow the anxiety, allow these emotions to just wash through, feel them.
Yes.
Just
and get into the beliefs. What I have to believe is true. So you acknowledge it. You don't gloss it over. You don't sweep it under the rug. You acknowledge it, sit with it. And then take it that step further is, what am I believing is true in this situation about myself to be generating this feeling? Those feelings don't come from a vacuum. They come from just, from a belief. I believe this, or I believe it's a certain frame of reality we're looking at. And that's what's generating that feeling.
What is a belief you've been working on lately?
Well, there's a lot of different ones that I have been deconstructing. And I think, so paradoxically, they feel very personal to us, and yet they're quite universal. So it's for example, value. What I create doesn't have any value. There's that. Or nobody wants to see me or hear me, that kind of thing. It's these old templates that went in at a certain time that we have to investigate and unpack and break through. Otherwise, we're operating from that subconsciously. Right. And I catch myself there from time to time. It's like, I'm running my energy through that belief matrix.
So are you talking specifically through the belief matrix of what I have to offer doesn't have value?
Correct.
Wow.
Valuelessness.
That it's valueless.
Literally. Yeah, it's self-value. How much value do I have? But particularly, does anybody really want to hear this?
Right.
Because just the way my experience was, I created a belief for myself that nobody wants to hear what I have to say. And then that becomes its own self-reinforcing reality. And that's kind of that's a sad place to be, but very self-reinforcing. When you believe that to be true, you don't take the steps to be heard.
You don't take the steps, and then your experience reflects.
And you feel unheard.
Right? You feel unheard.
Then you conclude, well, I must not have any value. Nobody sees me. Nobody hears me.
Nobody sees me.
And it just becomes this perpetuating loop. And when you find yourself in it, now I can catch myself. Before I used to pretty much live there. Now it's like I fall into it, and then I catch myself, and it's like, oh, I'm in a negative belief matrix, and I have tools. I know how to move the energy by first acknowledging it, recognizing, seeing what it is. And paradoxically, when I go directly in and feel it and sit with it, then that's what gets me out of the loop. Because I realize, wait a minute, there's other choices here. This isn't necessarily true. This is just one conclusion, a habitual loop. But not one that I need to reside in.
Exactly. We don't need to live there. But we do, but it sounds like we do need to experience it.
Yes.
Like we'll miss out on some of the gold.
Yes, if we try to gloss it over.
Or gloss it over, bypass it, rush to breakthrough.
Yes.
That we'll only half bake it. I mean, there's so many metaphors we can use here for this. So,
but we cannot avoid that downward cycle of the wave. It's a wave. You go into the creative high, you experience all this light and energy, but then you experience this lull where it feels as if the tide has gone up, but what's actually happening is all the stuff is being brought to the surface that you're ready to clear. And that's part of the creative process. See, it's how you label these things. Instead of labeling it and saying, oh, I'm stuck. Oh, God, I'm stuck. See, already that label creates a certain kind of feeling like, well, I feel stuck because I believe I'm stuck. But no, that's part of the creative process. You get to unpack all these negative beliefs. That how else would you know they're there if you weren't if they weren't brought to your awareness? So that's part of it. Yes.
Do you ever play with removing certain words from your vocabulary? Maybe you don't have to hold it in a very rigid way, like say, that's it, this word is banned for life. But rather that you're going to play, you know what, I'm not going to use that word. Right now, I'm not going to use that word. I'm going to play with other types of language as a tool to engage with the reality that I'm in. Have you ever played with that?
Not exactly in the way you're describing it, but I am playing with beliefs. Okay. So...
like if there are particular words tied to that belief, like the word stuck.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So rather than saying, oh, I'm not going to use the word stuck anymore, it's like, is there another way I can look at this situation? So instead of saying I'm stuck, is it, well, maybe I need to take a break for real. Maybe this is an arrow pointing in another direction. Maybe this is a signpost saying, higher mind right now is basically saying that's not the best direction for you to go. Maybe I need to go in a different direction. Maybe I need to wait and pause. Something needs to happen. Maybe I need to meet somebody, or some inspiration hasn't arrived yet. And so this project is kind of seeming stuck, but maybe it's just waiting for something else to come in. And often that happens. Where I'll see something's not working. Next day something happens, click, oh, I was waiting for that information to come in, and now it clicks in perfectly here.
And now you can move forward with let's say, the vision that you had. Right. So it's not this situation of, well, really wanted to go here. I came up with a, quote, obstacle. That's another word. Yes. I came up with an obstacle.
A creative challenge.
Yes. A conundrum, something. And instead, it's like, okay, trusting the process. All right, I don't have to freak out. I don't have to, go there. However, what that triggers in me is, what if I am in a fucking deadline? Right. Then what? Then how do I work with this? How do I express, to my client, to my boss, to my colleague, I'm so sorry, that creative snowflake did not land here in my heart chakra, so I cannot produce. What can I say? How do we work with that?
I mean, I can answer that in terms of being a teacher. There's been times.
Okay, Tom.
Yes.
I want the teacher response, but I also want you.
Well, just wait. Well, just hear me out. Hear me out here. Okay. So, having to show up at a certain time. Yes. When you're a teacher, there's certain students. Yes. Waiting, and it's like you got to show up at 9 o'clock. And
bingo.
I'm not always at my A game. So there's times where I'm just like, you know what, I feel like crap, but I still have to show up.
Right. So you got to deliver something.
Yeah. And so what I find at that time is just being as honest as I can with myself. See, usually what I have caught myself doing and what people do is they layer an extra amount of judgment on top of that. It's like, I should be showing up perfectly. Yes. I should be in my A game. I should this, I should that. And then you just kind of should all over yourself. And what you want in that moment for me is to actually just say, you know what, this is the way it is. The way it is perfect. Versus trying to, because if I beat myself up, it's like I'm adding an extra layer of negativity on top of the way I feel. It's like, well, how is that going to help? So it's just like, okay, today I feel this way, and that's okay. And I can still teach the material. It might not be coming through perfectly the way I want it to, but nevertheless, it's being kind to yourself. It's being accepting yourself as you are, because oftentimes we're just we are our own worst critics.
Oh my God, yes.
And usually, I mean, I've yet to have a class completely just break down and fail, you know. But internally, how I feel sometimes, it feels like, oh, I'm not quite here today. And then I can unpack that too when I have the time. You know, what am I believing? You know, it's like I'm expanding and I'm hitting some of these negative beliefs again.
Okay.
And so it's valuable that way, but it's just not forcing it, but showing up and just being where you said you're going to be.
So I'm hearing that we still prepare, we still take the action, we still, you might even say, do our due diligence. We still do all of that. We still show up. Sometimes it may look like that's all we've got, and we don't have that other level of engagement as developed. So there's still something to say for that level of just good old-fashioned preparation, good old-fashioned doing your homework, showing up in that way, and, you know, again, you know, doing your best. You know, sometimes I think that's a struggle with artistry. I mean, there's sort of the sense of, yes, we want the muse to descend. Yes, we want the feeling to flow, like to be able to channel it at will. But it's almost as if, like, well, we need to prepare ourselves to be available to it, and also to be accepting of the fact that, yeah, there will be times when it won't flower in that way that we would love, but our intention was to be available to it.
Yes.
And no matter what happens, it is working out, it is playing out for the best, for what it needs to be in that moment.
Especially if it's triggering stuff. That's part of the creative process. See, we tend to latch onto the positive feeling, expanding nature of creativity. But
you know, that itself is addicting.
Yes.
Oh my word.
But it's we tend to avoid when we're being triggered. But that's part of the creative process. Yeah. That is the other side of the coin, the other side of the wave, where you're triggered and you're feeling like, oh, like what I'm putting out isn't that great. Oh, I don't think, you know, anyone's going to like this. It's, you know, all this stuff starts coming up, but that's part of the process. So you can either avoid it or you can work through it and trust that creativity is revealing to you those things, exactly those things.
Yes.
Those triggers are perfectly timed for us to feel that stuff, so we can go into the beliefs, so that we can purge and let go of more of these constraints, so that we can be even more creative.
So that's the other part that I'm also hearing. You know, there is the showing up, there is the preparation and doing our due diligence, and then there is the trust.
Yes.
There is
trust the process, trust the timing.
Trust the process, trust, again, that whatever is happening
is meant to happen
is
that
meant
way.
To happen. It's
and you can
perfect.
use it in a positive way.
It's perfect as it is.
Correct, yes.
It may reveal to you the missing puzzle pieces that are essential to the next step.
So that you can shine even brighter the next time. Even
brighter. So you can remove this particular belief, you know, that will even further enhance, unleash more energy.
Yes.
You've developed your capacity to channel more energy. That's the other thing too, Tom. You know, sometimes, oh yeah, we're saying, yeah, give it to me, I'm ready.
Totally.
And then we actually discover, hold it. I actually can't channel that much.
Or I'm afraid of success.
Oh yeah.
That's definitely hit me from time to time.
Oof.
It's like, afraid of failure, yeah, but what about success? Like, you start hitting some successful milestones and all of a sudden it's like, you know, I caught myself freaking out. Like, wait a minute, this is getting too successful. I'm afraid. So there's that.
Okay, be honest with me, Tom. Be honest. Would you rather deal with I'm afraid of success or I'm afraid of failure? How's that one?
It's just they're both just have their own energy, and it's both is just it's you going into the dark cave. So I don't know that I have a preference.
I know. Give me failure anytime. Give me success anytime. Yeah.
I can't say I have a favorite one. I would say I don't particularly care for either
one because they both feel like shit.
Yes, but when it comes, I mean, I know that if I resist it, it's just going to prolong the suffering. So I might as well the sooner I just roll my sleeves up and just unpack it.
Okay, this is a silly question, but I'm just wondering, how do you know when you're in one or the other? How do you tell the difference?
I don't know that I even try to tell the difference until I try to unpack what's the belief generating.
Then it reveals itself.
Yeah. So the other side of the coin often is, what am I afraid will happen if I truly follow my passion, my excitement? That's the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
Usually I'm asking myself the question, what would I have to believe is true about myself in this situation to feel, think, act this way? But the other side of the coin is, well, what am I afraid will happen if I actually do follow fully my passion?
What'll happen?
For example, channeling. Recently I've been videotaping the channeling and releasing that, and there's these fears, like sending it out to my mailing list, sending it out on Facebook. What will people think? And then that becomes the belief, and I'm like realizing it's like, oh, I'm afraid what people will think. What
Wow,
I might get ridiculed. I might get some negative comments.
That's still there, isn't it?
People might reject me. Yeah, there's the fear.
It's still there. It's astonishing. I mean, here you have years under your belt of teaching, years under your belt of building your career as a qigong instructor, as a practitioner.
Yes.
And it's still
there.
But again, reminder, it hasn't stopped you. It hasn't stopped you from going forward. It hasn't stopped you from taking risks and taking steps.
Yes.
But, each
time I step forward, there is a process. Yes.
Just like ding, ding, here it is. It's still there. Welcome. Come in. Have a seat.
Some tea. Yes.
Exactly, because you're old friends.
Yes. And it's usually when it's stepping out of the comfort zone, because whatever we become comfortable doing regularly, it becomes comfortable, but then channeling is a new experience for me to share it with others, with the world. And so all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I haven't done that yet, and now all the old fears come up. And it's that same fear that I mentioned earlier, afraid of being seen, afraid of being heard, afraid that what I have to say is not valuable, nobody wants to hear it. And then also what will happen if I do express it, I will get ridiculed, I will get scorned, I will get people talking negative, and it's just like, it feels like the fear of God sometimes. But once I put it out there, it's like, I might get a negative comment or two, but it's mostly just, it's either well received or just ignored. People got their own lives to deal with.
So, okay.
And that's all right,
You're afraid of being seen, of being heard, all of that, right? And at the same time, just a moment ago, we were talking about our fears of not being seen, not being heard. So which one is it? Right?
Fear of success or fear of failure?
Exactly. Yeah. Is it fear of success or fear of failure?
And it's both.
Yeah. Oh my God.
We're complex creatures.
We are such fun little creatures, aren't we?
Yes.
Diving in there, and I'm just thinking of I'm thinking of Bashar. I'm thinking of, all right, Bashar is this alien presence, as our future selves, even a version of it, and just kind of looking at us. It's like, oh my, it's like they're watching us chase our tails.
Yes, I imagine that too.
It's like, wow,
we're entertaining to them.
We are so entertaining. I hope that there is a little bit of compassion, though.
Of course.
Good God.
That's why these great teachers come to instruct, to be way showers. Because they see the potential in us.
They see the potential. They see the suffering and the estos pobres,
Yeah. But I think they also recognize that the souls that are on earth now chose a really high degree of limitation in order to break out of it.
Yeah.
This is like the analogy sometimes I use. It's like we put ourselves in a straitjacket, lock ourselves in a safe, locked us safe in a jail cell, throw away all the keys, and then it's like, oh, let's see if we can get out of that one. And then we spend the life, unpacking these negative beliefs, these limitations, undoing the chains, undoing this, and just seeing, can we get out of that one? And can we truly be ourselves, even in the midst of such degrees of limitation? So the breakthroughs are that much sweeter because the limitations are so intense on the planet at this time. And we are collectively awakening into a much more fluid, much more creative society. Nevertheless, there's a lot of limitation on this planet. And for any of us to be here, it took a lot of courage to be here on this planet at this time. So I think...
You know what? I think some of us bought the ticket to be here, and we didn't quite know what we were getting.
Yeah, I get that sense too.
I've run into friends who have buyer's remorse.
Yes.
Okay.
I've had that. I've totally had that.
Buyer's remorse, they feel ripped off.
Why am I here?
Yeah.
What is the point?
It's like, oh my God, the flesh, overrated. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's been that. Wow.
Yeah, I've been there. What am I doing here? It's not worth it. It's
not worth it.
Yeah.
Too hard.
Yes, it's a challenging school. Physical realm is it's a challenging.
It is a challenging school.
But the breakthroughs are that much sweeter when you actually break through. That's like Bashar saying, the rubber band analogy. I love that one. The further you pull back the rubber band into the darkness, that much sooner and faster you'll fling into the light when you finally release those limitations. That's why it's so good to dive in there and release the chains, release the negative beliefs.
Release them. Feel the feelings.
Yes, absolutely.
Feel the feelings all the way through, as uncomfortable as it is. Just feel them all the way through and
metabolize the feelings. That's the way I like to say it.
Feel them. Let them just, sometimes I feel like let them have their way with me.
Yes.
Okay, surrender to it and allow it.
Yes.
I find the energy of allowing so profound and almost the ultimate test of what it means to be a warrior in these days.
And on that note, there's an ancient saying that goes, when you first start the spiritual path and awakening, you run away from the fire towards the coolness of the water. But then, as you mature on your path, you run into the fire.
We are running into the fire.
And as you run into the fire and be with the fire, through the fire, you find the coolness of the water. I know that's very metaphorical, but what I take that to mean is that we actually go into the negative beliefs. We go into the feeling and sit with it and let it metabolize. And that's where the breakthroughs truly, truly happen.
Into the beliefs, into the feelings, into both. I cannot stress that they're both so essential, so integral to this process.
That's how we untether ourselves from negative beliefs, is by allowing ourselves to really see what it is so that we can make a better choice for ourselves.
Yes. That energy of allowing is so exceedingly powerful.
Yes.
It is the mark of the spiritual warrior of today.
It is.
It is the mark.
Yes.
Who knew? It's not the brute force.
It's paradoxical, isn't it?
Allowing.
Allowing is supreme strength.
Supreme strength.
It's like water. It knows how to carve a huge canyon when it appears so soft and gentle.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of strength to allow. It takes a lot of courage to be able to go into the heart of the feeling and to just feel it directly, and then to ask, what is the belief generating this? And no matter what happens, you will not be annihilated, which it feels like annihilation to go into there. And we also have a fear that the beliefs, the negative beliefs, we don't want to look at them because we're afraid that they're going to be true. So that's one of the ways the negative beliefs trick us, is like, oh, I don't want to look at that because it might be true. But the guarantee is in this path is it's never going to be true. A negative belief about you is never going to be true. So you can look at it and sit with it and let it go.
Even though, boy, oh boy, in that moment, it sure feels true.
Like it, yes.
All right.
Oh, good.
Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you for
the time.
helping unpack all of this, and thank all of you as well for tuning in on this wonderful conversation, which for us is also a challenge because we deal with the same challenges as any creatives. And so we invite you to, have tea with us and to experience that, and hopefully you got something out of that as well.
Tschüsschen.
Bye-bye. What is Tschüsschen?
Bye-bye in German.
Okay.
In the north.